Hey everyone, my name's Hassan. I work at CardStack, and today I'm going to talk to you guys about monorepos. So monorepos are pretty popular. Probably you've heard of them. Maybe you even work on one. The idea is pretty simple. A monorepo is a single repository that contains multiple node modules. And from the previous talk, users need to use their arms. Well, that's what happens, guys. Great minds think alike. So that's OK. Anyways. So why do people create monorepos? And why do I, as an Ember developer, need to worry about monorepos? So the answer is really simple. Add-ons. So people really love monorepos. And the reason is that in a repository, the code stays in sync with itself. So when you have multiple modules that live within that repository, the modules stay in sync. You can have a single PR or even a single commit that is able to orchestrate a change across multiple modules. And you can also test these things together. Filing issues and tracking issues is much more convenient when you have modules that are co-located inside the same repository. So a couple months ago, Yehuda had a wonderful thread around building modules using abstractions. And so really, a point that really resonated with me here is the idea that when you're building these abstractions, it's a gradual process. And the first step is to extract your code into a module. And so when you think about Ember add-ons, this is where we create the in-repo add-on. It's the first baby step to actually making an add-on. The next step, which I want to talk to you guys today, is about actually creating a monorepo. OK, so how do I do that? So the idea is that Yarn, that we all know and love, actually has this capability called Yarn Workspace. And so the idea there is that you have multiple modules in the same repository that actually all share the same node modules folder. And within that node modules folder, there are symlinks into the individual modules, so everything stays in sync. So the process of actually doing this is pretty straightforward, right? I'm not supposed to use that word. Sorry, it's not straightforward at all. As you can see from Mr. Thomas Dale here has described. And we need to talk a little bit later, Tom, about your use of the word easy, OK? So I created an example here of moving from an Ember app with in-repo add-ons to an Ember app with a monorepo. And I encourage you to take a look. It's going to go into way more detail than I can in the 5 minutes that I have. So let's talk real quickly, though, about what that process actually entails. So the idea is that for each of your in-repo add-ons, you can use Ember Generate to create the boilerplate for your add-on. You can copy those into the correct place. It's up to you what that correct place is. It's just a folder. Lots of people call it packages, but call it what you want. And then, copy your code into this boilerplate. Then finally, you want to make sure that you specify your dependencies in these newly created add-ons. So I also want to talk a little bit at the top level of your Ember app. You're going to need to tell Yarn that this thing is now a workspace. So the way you do that is from this workspace's property, you indicate the folders that are contain your modules. You also need to tell NPM that we're not going to publish to NPM the actual Ember app. And so what we do is we indicate that this is a private this is a private module. But that does not necessarily mean that the modules contained therein are private. Those can be published. And then finally, you can see at the bottom there, for the version number, we can just put a star there because Yarn Workspace is going to create those symlinks. Everything's going to stay in sync. For our purposes here, it's not really important what the version is. Yarn's got our back. So after I did this process, I had a couple realizations. The one that was really important for me was that the dependencies that I had were actually relying on my Ember app's dependencies. It's important for important for modules to be able to describe their dependencies and take those along with them into the Ember app that they're installed. So when you go through this process, you'll realize that. Also test, yay, we got the dummy app that we can use for testing our add-ons in isolation. And then it's up to us if we want to be able to publish that. And so I would recommend checking out Lerna for doing publishing of modules from your monorepo. So with that, thank you guys. Again, here's the URL if you want to look at the example. And